you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two flavor flavors.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
And we're live.
Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. We got a very special episode tonight. I got another guest from way back, and it's your hosts, the Happy Hoodlums themselves, Mr. Kemper Woodruff and Zachary Sampson. And we got Brandon Brown in the house, okay? And to give you a little information, me and Brandon met way back in the day. This was back when I was working in the medical marijuana dispensary and stuff. And just became quick friends. You know, he was always on some fly shit, always had a dope hat and the nicest J's ever. And I used to be like, man, he's just so chill. And I'm sure you guys will catch the vibe right away. Just, I've never seen anything excite this man other than what he's done in the community as he started to get things cooking. And it has certainly snowballed over the years. And we're happy to have him here tonight. He's going to talk a little bit about the Restorative Roots Project, a nonprofit in town, and what they got going on. But first, we're going to just say welcome and kind of start off with a little bit about your background. So tell the folks where it all began for you.
Where it all began for me?
Yeah.
Long time ago on 33rd and Prescott.
Nice.
That's where grew up over here in Portland. I've lived here my whole life. Had little spurts of living in Seattle, up in Washington with my dad. And then at 19, I actually went to prison. Went to prison for 15 years, violent crimes, violent offender, under Measure 11. Did 15 years while I was there. Man, I just felt like being sober, like having nothing in my system and everything like that at the time. I was just like, had a clarity of wanting to better myself. So that's what I did. You know, I just dug into every book that I can grab, every class that I could take. I did everything to try to get on the right foot to better myself. You know, I went through learning about religions, just reading a dictionary was was entertaining to me, you know, just to learn some new words and stuff like that. And about maybe 3 years before I got out, I ran into this lady named Anna Debenham, who now has her own organization called the Inside Alliance. And I took this class with her called Insight to Well-Being. Well, it's a class on mindfulness, and then it helped me find myself, you know, it helped me ground myself, you know, but it also opened doors for me, you know, it opened doors that made me realize like emotions and feelings that I had in myself. And at the time, I really didn't know how to fully deal with all that kind of stuff. So that comes later in my story. I stuck with her all the way until I paroled. Once I got out of prison, I started doing groups with her, with other men that had been released from prisons.
Yeah.
And then I got into teaching classes at OYA in McLaren. So I did that for about 2-3 years. And while I was doing that, I was also working at this company called Rapid Response BioClean, where I just cleaned up bio waste, and I did a lot of body cleanups after crime scenes. And that's around the same time I met you.
Yeah. So, you know, I want to ask first and foremost, that's 15 years like time served?
Yeah.
Damn, bro. Because I think we really do need to start a little bit with just unpacking the emotions of being a young man and finding yourself, you know? Because I know that's what causes, that's like the first domino to fall. And a lot of it is a lack of purpose, sometimes, and um, feeling like you're owed something that life just didn't give you. And, I can say, interestingly enough, like a struggle I never thought that I would have to go through is something I've experienced lately, with like wanting to see my daughter more, you know? And the only thing I can equate to that is, as a young man, that's like things that you want out of your father, like getting to see your dad or something. And my parents split when I was young. I don't know if you had a household that was both parents under the same roof, but that division early on affected me. So I guess, what do you think like the first domino was in your kind of chain?
In my downward spiral or my
Yeah,
upward spiral?
well, I would say downward so we can go through prison a little bit, and how you, in an environment that's supposed to like dehumanize you and condition you, how you established not only your sanity but yourself, your sense of self, and navigating through the system before you get out on the other side.
Uh, wow. Well, I could say just like you, my parents split at an early age, and I'd probably say that's probably where my spiral started, my downward side. But didn't know how bad that affected me until later in life when I got to learn about who I was.
Hmm.
So, like, my mom actually kidnapped me in the middle of the
Whoa.
night. She kidnapped me and my brother because she had my dad was an abusive man. So,
Hmm.
my mom had just ran away, took off. That was the only way she could save herself, and she couldn't take me and my brother at the time.
Hmm.
So, this one night, my mom came, and all of a sudden, like, a window's open in the room that me and my brother are sleeping in, and my mom was like, "Shh, come on," and we just hopped out of the window, and I had to help my little brother who was in a crib at the time. Hand a little brother off to my mom, thinking
Whoa.
that I was on an adventure at the time as a kid. Hey, this is an
Hmm.
adventure. We doing something cool. This is fun.
Hmm.
We're sneaking out with mom. I haven't seen her in months, so
Yeah.
it was really cool as a kid thinking about it, but not knowing the effects of what something like that actually does to a person's psyche, down the road, and how it really affects them in relationships down the road. And, it's just so much that piles on that I didn't learn about until later on.
I can relate to that 100%. There's things that, like, I guess for me, like when my mom and my dad split, it really did two things. One, I wanted to know why things happen. And two, all I knew was, like, from watching what happened to my mom, like, I need to be a man. And I determined that in my mind at like 3.5, 4 years old, before I knew what a man is. Right. And really, when I was looking at my story, I was like, I think that's kind of the first domino emotionally, like, that resonates with a man. It's like this feeling of, oh, I gotta be more. And that's that
Yeah,
seed of like perfectionism. You have to be perfect, and you don't realize that that's never gonna happen. Life is full of lessons and learning. Um,
exactly.
and so it's like,
It
that's
is.
like where I was like, that's the first setup for failure for me. But continue. I'm intrigued. That's an incredible story.
Yeah, I mean, just like you, I raised my little brother. It was just me and him once mom took us. She worked two jobs. We didn't see mom didn't come home until like 10 o'clock at night sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm making dinner for her. Dinner's in the oven, mom, when you get home.
Mhm.
Whatever I knew how to make at the time, which wasn't much, some top ramen, maybe some
Mhm.
sandwiches or something. Didn't have too many skills as a youngster, but Yeah, I can remember being 9, 10 years old, home alone, raising my little brother,
Mm-hmm.
who's 4 years, 5 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, so I had all these misconceptions of growing up, get into the gang life, walk the wrong side of the roads. And that wasn't, I think that was just like, I don't know, a sense of wanting to feel belong more
Mm-hmm.
for me. But then after going to prison, all of that just seemed senseless, useless. Like it didn't mean nothing to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting in prison thinking like, shit, this is the rest of my life. You told me 15 years. I'm like, to somebody at 19 years old, drug addict, didn't give a fuck about life. Excuse my language.
You're good.
I
Speak
had that.
freely.
I had the Kanye West mentality. You can't tell me nothing.
Mhm.
So at that point in time, being in prison, I was probably for about a good year. I was in probably a real bad depression, being
Mm.
locked up. And the only thing that soothed myself was the Bible.
Yeah.
I read it front to back every day. I mean, I'm reading passages, studying the Bible. I got really heavy into Christianity, but I feel like that's like something everybody runs to when you get locked up in prison is like, dear God, help me. You get me out of this situation. I'll never do it again. Everybody falls into that field, but for me, it was more. It was just like it opened a door for me to be hungry for more.
Mm.
I just looked at the Bible like it was a source of knowledge to me, not like
Yeah.
a source of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me want to read more and get into more stuff and learn about other religions. And it just, yeah, it opened up so much to my eyes and to my mind that, I felt like that was the path that I was going to be on. So I studied theology.
Yeah.
Actually went to school for it. So this was like in my first few years of prison, and even being like the small, I was like a buck 30, if that, when I went into prison. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like small and had a chip on my shoulder. Like if you looked at me, I felt like I had to defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
First day of prison, and to me, I'll laugh about it now, but like to some people, they'll be like, "Holy shit, that really happened." My first day in prison, I go to this cell, and everybody's in chow at that time, so I didn't know whose cell I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know nothing about racism. I didn't know nothing about separatism. I didn't know nothing about prison life at that point in time, really.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I was walking into. So all I know is guys that told me, they were like, hey, man, don't let nobody punk you. Stick up for yourself no matter what you do. So in walks a white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he says is, oh, hell no, this ain't happening. I'm like, whoa, what you mean? What ain't happening, homie? Let me
Mm-hmm.
set my bag down, take my shirt off. What you mean? What ain't happening? Felt I had to be the tough guy, defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I end up beating this guy up. And he's like, bro, I just look. And he had to break it down to me. He was like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I got sucked up by these white guys in here. They called themselves EK, European Kindred, is what it is. So
Mm-hmm.
he was like, I'm prospecting. I'm like, what is prospecting, bro? I'm from the streets. I don't know nothing. Don't talk to me like that. What is this shit?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, bro, I'm a gangbanger. This I rep this. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I don't want no problems, bro. I'm not even racist or nothing, but this is just how it has to be up in here. You got to roll with the crew in here. If I
Mm-hmm.
don't roll with them, then I'm gonna get beat up and ate up by everybody else in here, man. He said, bro, I don't want to have to fight you or nothing. I don't want no problems with you. Let's just go to the cop, tell him that we can't have some gang stuff. I was like, yeah, it's cool with me, man. That's my introductory into prison.
Mm-hmm.
First day in the prison, and then I get put into a cell with a guy I actually went to school with, and
Whoa.
so me and him were, yeah, it's prison was full of that. I mean, to be honest, it was like a family reunion in there. And I
That's
must say
sad.
that's more for the black culture than anything. I mean, because you look at it, Oregon's population of black folks is actually at 10% right now. These are actual numbers. 10% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
7% of that population is already in prison. You got
Damn.
2% of the black population is out here on the streets in Oregon.
That's
Like this,
bananas.
it's like this stuff doesn't make no sense. So going into prison, my stepdad was in there, uncles were in there, cousins were in there, friends I went to elementary, middle school, high school with were all in there. It
Yeah.
was just a reunion. So part of the realities were like, oh, this is cool. It ain't nothing. I got family, friends, we gonna pop it in here.
Mm-hmm.
So part of the reality of prison's not really setting in. Part of it does set in. There's moments where prison felt real, and there were moments for me where it felt like I was never going to be anywhere else but in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I at times it felt too normal. It felt like this is life. This is all it's going to ever be.
Yeah.
So you adapt to that lifestyle, whatever it takes to survive in there. And everything that you go from growing up, your parents teach you simple things like, hey, you got some candy, share that candy with that little kid over there, your friend, or with your brothers or something like that. That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
In prison, it's not normal. If you share with somebody in there, you're going to get written up. They're going to probably try to take away some sort of a privilege that you got, which is like using the phone or even coming out of your cell. They'll take stuff away from you just for sharing stuff.
Hmm.
Like, hey, man, this is human nature. We're born to share. It's embedded in us to be giving and care and share with other people.
Yeah.
Prison takes that away from you. Prison
So
takes away all humanity within a human being. And I will go as far to say as maybe I don't feel the same as a rape victim, but I can say I kind of feel what it's like to be molested,
like violated. I think
violated.
violated
That
is the word.
violated is maybe the word. When you're forced to be like walking in a group and all of a sudden like, hey, you come here, pull you over, and they're gonna take you in a room and make you strip for them
Yeah.
just randomly. You just want me to get naked for you for what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do y'all get off on that? Because this is degrading to me, like to have to get naked for another man at random call. Like,
Yeah.
so in a sense, like it prison started making me look at everything and everybody a whole lot differently. It made me look at humanity differently.
So I want to just tap into something real quick because I think, in terms of like I'm a Christian, right? And so I'm just gonna kind of backtrack in this way. Like, let me think of how to frame this question. Do you think being stripped of natural human rights and ability to interact with one another in a normal way um, set the stage for you to tap into Christ consciousness? Because you like you said, you kind of missed the doctrine of like tradition that the Bible was giving and really tapped into the higher message of what Christ comes to teach us and what God consciousness really is. Um, so I'm curious about that.
So I feel like yes, yes, and no, and yes, and there's like more to it. So yeah, it like you said, like I didn't take a traditional route of like going to church, going to Sunday school and stuff like that, learning about God that way. To me, it was sitting in the cell. I picked up this book and I read about God. And it made me want to pick up other books and learn, you know? And it made me want to read other religions and learn about that. And I just was like, oh, okay,
Did it
I
move your?
get this. But
Did
it
it
it,
move
it
you?
it
Sorry.
made me inside, it made me sit here and look at myself differently. It
Mm-hmm.
it made me like have a God conscious. I don't like to say that kind of terminology, but that's kind of what I feel like it is. Like I reached another level of consciousness of thinking, of wanting it to be, and knowing that like we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Like it made me feel different about everybody else. It made me look at everybody differently. It made me accept everybody.
The
Like in prison, I was probably a person like I did things like I shouldn't have been doing in prison. I I would get into the cell with white people because you're my friend. Oh,
Mhm,
I don't care about the black car. If they got a problem with it, tell them to come talk to me about it then.
mhm,
I don't care about the blood car. I don't care if those are my homeboys over there. I'm gonna do me regardless. And I like this person. He's
mhm,
a good person, regardless of what he did. I don't care about the crime. I didn't meet that man in his criminal state. I met him in a different state.
mhm,
So I'm gonna judge that man off of what I met him off of. So I would go against a lot of rules in there, a lot of prison rules.
mhm.
Like amongst the prisoners, there's a set of rules that we all go by in there. There's just certain things you don't mix with other races. Well, I'm of mixed race. What do you mean I can't hang out with white people? My mom's half white.
Mhm.
You can tell me I can't hang out with something that's actually a part of me? My mom is half native. What do you mean I can't go down to the sweat lodge and go vibe with my people? Those are my
Mhm.
people. Like I can do this. So I would get a lot of slack from different race groups and different gang groups in there about the stuff that I did.
Mhm.
But that was my God conscious that's telling me, hey man, you don't all that other bull crap. That don't mean nothing.
Yeah. See,
If I'm a vibe with you, I'm a vibe with you.
I
When I met you, me and you vibed. We kicked it, we talked, we chopped it up. That's just how I felt about everybody in there. And that's how I feel about everybody in life. I'm going to give everybody a chance until you show me I shouldn't give you that chance anymore. Even then, I believe in second chances. I've been given a second chance at life.
mhm. I
So
I asked
it
the
takes a
question.
hell of a lot for a person to actually get me to say, fuck you, I'm not going to fuck with you no more.
Mhm.
So,
I asked the question because I know, for me at least, and it seems to be the current, like, recurrent theme, I guess, is that when you have an encounter with God, you encounter your spirit, right? And what really you're becoming um aware of is not only your level of awareness, but other people's levels of awareness, of self-awareness, right? And so it's like I realized I was walking around in the dark. I was ignorant as fuck because I was hurt, you know? And it's not until you're in this state of absolute brokenness where you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out anymore. It's like, fuck it. If this is what it is, show me. And it's at that point that you encounter the fundamental lesson of reality with yourself and oneness. There's either oneness or less than oneness. And we can go down a rabbit hole about that being the Matrix, but that's just the film student in me. You know what I mean? Uh, on a real student of life, perspective, because I can say honestly, like, I, by the grace of God, dodged the prison system. Um, and what's crazy is like, even my dad worked as head nurse in CRCI for like years and years and years and years. And that's why, like, cut two, I'm meeting Brandon, right? And I just encountered, Christ myself. And all that really happened was I became aware of my janky ass habits. I was still the same person with the same habits, and I was trying to fucking figure it out, but I just felt differently about my habits now. And all of a sudden I can't go back to that, even though it's what's most familiar to me. And so it's like, all right, fuck it. Show me something, and I can't stop being me. So I'm gonna still fuck with the people that I fuck with, just like you saying, I'm on the inside. I got to vibe with who I vibe with, right? I can't deny them because that's to deny a part of myself, right? And these realizations start hitting you. And the reason I wanted to start this podcast kind of in the way that we did is like, this is the truth that exists in all of us. And I look at people now and how I used to be, and I'm like, I was so strong in my ignorance that I didn't realize I was weak. And now it's like I walk around and I know how bad life can fucking hurt you, and violate you, how violated you can feel, and there's people that got it worse than the shit that I went through,
Exactly.
and you start being like, I gotta help the next person, right? And so you start being more forgiving. And so let's kind of move to the later aspects of your prison sentence, right? So you've made this shift, you've gone through some things. We'll glaze over the politics because that's for a whole other different kind of podcast than where we're going. And although it is relevant, right? Because what you're doing now and what we'll find out later is how you're making a change in this whole system and cycle, right? So you're going through prison, you start getting into your schooling. How does schooling begin to affect you? And did you phase out of the prison politics while still in there, really? Or were you affected by those? How'd that transition take place?
So that's the hard thing about prison is if you try to phase out of the politics, it's like you can't truly phase out of it in there. You're still going to have to follow behind some sort of politics in there regardless. You can fight it as much as you want to, and it'll fight you back. You got to learn the bare minimum what you can deal with in there. Like, so I went like going through my phase of learning, like my God consciousness was just the tip of learning for me. Like I accepted other people, but the one thing that I did not do at that point in time of learning and even doing my schooling stuff while I'm in there, I never accepted and forgave myself.
Mm,
I never was truly about me. Like I was covering shit up still. I never dealt with nothing while I was in there. Prison's not a place where you can deal with that kind of stuff though.
mm,
You can't cry in there. You can't show those emotions in there. You literally become a robot. They turned that off. Like my emotions got turned off. Literally. I literally did not have emotions until 3 days after I got out of prison. That's like, I could fast track to that part, but it took a while for my emotions to even get turned back on. Like you have to turn them off in there. They don't exist anymore because they don't care about you in there. You might get one or two staff members who care, but they only care about certain inmates. Like they can only do so much. They can't care about the whole because there's nothing they can do about the whole. If they go against the whole, then they're going to get fired. So they even have to follow like crazy politics themselves within there. But turning my emotions and everything off, that was like a big part of me that I did not learn to deal with. I didn't know nothing about. I didn't know what happiness really felt like anymore. That was lost somewhere in my childhood. I couldn't even tell you what my last happy memory was before I got locked up. It was probably actually, I'm gonna lie, that was the birth of my daughter.
damn, she was
So that
born
was
before you went in?
before I went in. My
Oh,
youngest was born before I went in.
man. That's got to be heavy.
That's not even the tip of it, brother. I got another daughter that I didn't find out about until later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like crazy. She's full grown adult, best friends. We're cool. Like awesome type stuff, but she was also born after I got locked up. like a
Mm.
year and a half after I got locked up. She was born. So none of my kids didn't know me until after I got locked up. They're grown women. So yeah,
Damn,
I didn't have to.
you gotta. Was her mom pregnant on a conjugal?
Nah, none of them.
Okay, I was gonna say you was like the Don. Like shit, you went to prison early, but you had the Don suite up in there. By the way, side
No.
note, Zach, if you have any questions, I'm gonna need you to interject. All right, because if even if this is super foreign, like just throw shit out there. All right,
I'm just listening because this is I mean,
I know how you do.
yeah. So I'm
All right,
here. If I got
all
something,
right,
I'll bring it up.
all right, bet.
Yeah, but like I said, like my changes didn't come until actually, like I said, 3 years, about 2.5 years technically until I got out. When I started taking this insight to well-being class.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that opened my consciousness on levels that I didn't know I had yet. That made me look and analyze who I was as a person. It made me start taking accountability for who I was as a person.
What kind of things were they having you run through? Like how did that happen?
So insight to well-being is a like a 10-week program is what you usually go through. I mean, you can do like a 1 day, 2, 3 day intensive, whole entire days. Very exhausting, I will tell you, learning that way. Anything you learn that way is exhausting. Um, but I took a 10-week class, man, and it really just points back to yourself, your own thinking back to you. Teaches you about perspective of life. When I look out at here at life, everything in life is always just from your own perspective. It's your thought. Me and you could look at the same exact picture and see something totally different because that's our own perspectives of life. So when I see those things and I react to stuff, that's just me putting my own self upon life. It's me putting my own emotions on life. That's me with my own thoughts on life. So really thinking about that, I'm like, oh shit, this totally makes sense. This totally makes sense that I'm looking at life literally through my own eyes. Everything I do is through my own eyes. You can tell me something, but I'm still going to perceive it my way. I'm still going to see it my way. You could have went to church. I just picked up a Bible. We look at God differently. It's our own perspectives of how we look at life. And learning about that just really blew my mind. But like I said, that opened doors for me as well. Doors that didn't teach me.
And do you mean like emotionally or like intellectually or like
So it could
actual
teach you.
opportunity?
So even learning. So this is something that I learned even in that class. Like thought and emotion are one and the same. It's the exact same thing. Your thoughts and your emotions. You can't have an emotion without a thought tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa. It's just they're so similar. So what insight to well-being didn't teach you is that yeah, you do have thought and emotion. They are one and the same thing, but it doesn't teach you how to really deal with that thought and that emotion. It doesn't teach you how to deal with the trauma that came up with all these thoughts that I had still.
Mm.
Now, like I said, it opened doors. It made me look at myself and analyze myself. So now I'm dealing with all the freaking trauma that I have in my life. Like, what the fuck do I do with this now?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. So now I can really think about how that affected me when my mom kidnapped me and my brother in the middle of the night. How my mom and dad splitting up, how that really affected me. How my dad being an abusive person affected me down the road. You know, not seeing a healthy relationship. Well, in turn, I'm not going to have a healthy relationship until I learn how to create one myself.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I had to learn how to love myself. I had to learn to forgive myself for everything that I'd done that was wrong in life. Like to me, reading the Bible was like, okay, I can ask God forgiveness and God took it. But for me, that was not tangible. Like I just couldn't really grasp that fully. Like I'm still not dealing with this though. Like God, you could took that from me. And I feel like, okay, that's like another form of forgiveness I see, That's not the humanly forgiveness. That's a
So,
godly forgiveness.
unconditional.
That's two different types of forgiveness, and I had to learn that later on. Like, oh shit, this is that type of forgiveness. Okay, I understand you, God, a little bit more now. I
Hmm.
understand what that means. There's godly levels and there's manly levels, humanly levels.
Hmm.
Things down here on this human level are what we deal with every day as a human being. We can give it up to God to deal with it on the godly level, but we still got to deal with our humanly level stuff. And I didn't deal with mine. And I got out and I got the most gruesome job to ever get known to man coming out of prison. I went into rapid response, and that just put more trauma on me that I just wasn't dealing with.
Hmm.
I mean, like I said, I was cleaning crime scenes up.
Hmm.
I'm
I
cleaning up
remember.
after dead bodies. Like I'm cleaning up brain matters, half of skulls I'm picking up off of the ground because a guy jumped from a 20-story building,
Hmm.
or a guy got splattered all over the road, and I got to pick all the pieces up that are all over the place in a 50-foot radius or more because somebody's body was splattered. Or there were just moments of like showing up to a scene before the bodies were actually taken away were like the hardest things that I would go through. Or like if families are still around, like there's nothing worse than hearing a mother cry when their child just got killed.
Hmm. I know that. Yeah.
That scream right there, that stuff sat with me in my mind. Like I could hear that consistently, it just goes and goes. Like I'll never get those sounds out of my head ever.
And the
Or
smells.
just like the things that I would see, the stories. Like I had no problem with cleaning it up. The smells I got used to. All I ever ask is please just don't tell me what the hell it is I'm cleaning up.
Mm.
Because once I got the story, then that changes everything about what I was just doing. I can clean all day, every day, no problem. I'm going to put this image out of my mind because this is a job and this is my second chance in life and I'm not going to fail at it. I'm going to work hard. So I don't care what kind of job I had. In my mind, I was going to come out and work at Burger King. I'm a felon. If that's the only job I can get, well, then that's what I was going to do. But this man, Lance Hamill, gave me a chance to work at his company and help build his company up with him. I started ground floor with this man in 3 trucks. This man is multi-millionaire, business galore. I mean, he's freaking nuts, like
Yeah.
genius, genius
Hmm.
man, does a whole lot out here. But yeah, he gave me a chance. But as long as I didn't hear the stories behind what I was doing, I was okay. You tell me a story, or I get to see one of these moms or anybody in your family break down and cry because of what I'm doing. That shit breaks me down internally,
Hmm.
especially if I'm as a father and their child just died. Like that really hits home.
Yeah.
Like I got to go home at the end of the day, like with a frown on my face, with sadness in my heart at the end of the day of work. I carried that for 5 years working at that company. When I was done, like I said, I went to therapy, bro. I started doing this other work that I was doing, and it made me have to look at myself more. I was like, I'm going to therapy. I got too much to deal with right now. It's a whole lot that I've seen, I witnessed, and I've been with in life, and I got to deal with all these traumas I have.
Okay, so we gotta put a pause on that because I gotta. All right, we're gonna rewind the tape because there's so much to unpack in that. First, have you ever seen the show My Name Is Earl?
I love that show. Earl's my dude.
Earl's my fucking dude too. All right, so I felt like in my life and you explained it so well talking about the humanly level, right? I had not only like a lot of survivors guilt, I guess, from some of the shit that, like when my best friend was murdered and stuff. um Not that I was physically there, but I was always there, and just shit that goes along with that. But point being, I came back after having this experience, like with God within myself, and felt like I had to live this like my name is Earl kind of life of like, all right, I got to make this right. I got to learn how to be right on a human level, in the day to day. And you also kind of were touching on some things of like there being a big difference from learning how to deal with yourself, and actually addressing trauma rather than just covering it up, because I think it's so easy to still try and like skirt that accountability almost, or like looking at yourself in that light, because it takes you to a place where you have to navigate out of the frequency of that perspective, right? So what you were talking about when you were saying that thoughts have a correlation that matches emotionally, right? So those two things go hand in hand, like a radio, right? If I'm on, 101 sad AM channel, right? All my sad emotions are going to have thoughts that match sadness. And you have to learn how to tune yourself. And it's not going to take a quantum leap to positivity, right? You have to go through the neighborhoods of emotion, right? And so I think naturally, if you look at frequency, people harmonize in a certain spot based on their level of awareness, right? So you, especially if you've gone through abuse and trauma, right? You get stuck down at this bottom level frequency, right? Where you go from helpless to angry to hopeful and fall back down into helplessness where you're used to, right? And this comes with a self image problem, right? I didn't realize subconsciously all these outward things stemmed from this inward goal that I was telling my subconscious, I am helpless. I am, bad. I am these negative things, right? And that's where your subconscious will direct you. That's where you're going to harmonize in life. And that frequency is what you're like a magnet to wherever you go. And that's really because you feel familiar with it. Why are you familiar with it? Because
Exactly.
I identify myself with that, right? And these are things that people don't teach us how to navigate out of. And it's truly the biggest life skill to learn how to observe from a detached position, right? So I'm going to take myself back to, and I always describe trauma like those little Russian dolls, how there's like a doll inside of a doll inside of a doll. It's like there's a memory that you think is like, oh, that's where the trauma really stems from, right? But really, once you address that, nope, that just leads you to this thing. And you go, oh, I was feeling that because I kind of felt like that over in this other part of my life. And now you have to unpack that. And the way that I came up with doing that in my own life was I would go back and I would relive the shit. And I learned this in therapy, because what therapy did for me, I never agreed with my therapist. I'm gonna tell y'all that right now. Disclaimer: I still disagree with that motherfucker. But I'm gonna tell you this: it taught me who I am, and that I'm not crazy for feeling what I felt. I just might not have been handling the shit right, right? And so that's where that other person gave me, like, in my opinion, personally, I was like, this dude's pussy as fuck. Like I don't operate like that. But really, that was a hurt inside me because I didn't know how to deal with feeling violated, you know,
Exactly.
or wronged in life. And I think that's what people are really, and especially young men, are navigating. Young women too. But I think it's expressed differently, and I can't really speak to that because that wasn't my path in life. So I'm sorry. We'll have to get some ladies on here to talk about that. But to me, like I look at it as I would go back to this situation and I would say, all right, this is where I was at mentally at that time, and this is what happened, and this is why I did it. Now, emotions aside, what happened in black and white? Like if I was just someone else standing in the room, what really just happened? Oh, there was a disagreement. All right. And then break down what the disagreement really was fundamentally. Okay. Having lived through that and the consequences of those actions, with the knowledge I have now, how would I do it differently? And you rewrite that memory for yourself. So it's no longer, you've learned the lesson. You're no longer stuck with this reoccurring shit from that instance, right? So now you're not out of it. It's going to lead you to the next version of that in your life until all of a sudden you're at peace with it. Once you can acknowledge it, once you can see the theme, you can break the cycle and be free from it. And until you do, this is very yogic, right? You're going to go into a karmic cycle, right? And so there's on one side of this coin, like betrayal. Now, on the other side of this coin is trust, right? And so you're going to experience both of these things to know the value of the coin itself as a whole, right? So I'm going to betray somebody, and I'm also going to be betrayed by somebody to understand that trust is a conditional form of love. And there's an unconditional form that I can break this cycle by attaining. And that's where the God consciousness, Christ consciousness comes in, where now I realize fundamentally this is the best way to handle the situation, even if the situation is fucked. And that doesn't have anything to do with me being good or bad. I'm not putting that emotion onto it, like you were saying. Just like artwork. That's not me looking. I could look at a painting and say, that's an ugly ass painting. Or I could say it's a beautiful painting. But regardless, the painting is what the painting is outside of that definition. Now you're the
Gotcha.
painting, right? I'm the painting that I'm looking at. What am I saying about it? Okay, so that's the now that I got off of that rant because I was so excited for that. So now we go into when we met because I had been through some horrendously traumatic shit in my life and on the path to doing some really bad shit, right? That for sure could have landed me in prison for a stretch like you had to go through, right?
Yeah.
And I managed to get out of, the streets and into the dispensary. That was my step up, right? So I'm in this dispensary and you're coming in. And naturally I just vibe with you, right? And you were smoking because you were trying to medicate this thing that you had going on. Cause you would come in and be like, bro, I just had to clean up that mess. And it's like some shit I just heard on the news, right? Like it's like red tape stuff. You're like, hey, I had to go clean up this, I had to go clean up that. And I'm in my head, I'm like, bro, I know how traumatic this is. So I know that right now, this might be like the most human contact that we get. So I'm gonna just chop it up with you about something irrelevant and just give you like snatch you out of that reality into this reality. But can you talk about like when you would go home? Because I know by no stretch of the imagination am I trying to make myself like some hero in the story. No, I was selling weed and I was realizing through what I was observing with my homies that like I was perpetuating a negative cycle because I was giving someone a band-aid that didn't treat shit. It didn't treat shit. It got them through a bad time, but it didn't fix the root cause of these traumas that were leading to negative cycles in someone's life experience. So can you kind of speak on what you were going through in that phase?
You see, like, okay, so when I had met you, I just barely started smoking weed. Like coming
Really?
out of prison, I was like, my whole thing was like, I'm gonna be sober as a gopher. you
Mhm,
know, I'm gonna go through life. I love being sober. It's cool.
mhm,
And I was an ex-addict. I didn't want to break anything like that. I was scared to even smoke weed. I didn't even have a drink at the time.
mhm,
But after a while of working at Rapid Response, I was like, bro, I need something. I gotta, I gotta get. Oh my god, I need to relieve myself. Like, I need to go smoke a fucking blunt. That's what the hell I need. I know that's gonna be the only thing that's gonna calm me down, mellow me out, and it worked. But like you said, it was more of a band-aid for me. I was putting that band-aid on, not wanting to deal with the shit that I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
And still not even dealing with the stuff I went through in prison or through my childhood. I still didn't deal with none of that stuff. Here I am, I'm still teaching a class to these youth at OYA. I'm feeling hella fake because I'm not dealing with myself. I would feel worse at the end of one of those classes than I would at the end of my workday
Damn.
because I didn't feel true. Like I didn't feel like I was 100% me.
And is OYA
Because here I
Oregon?
am, I'm teaching these guys to do this and do that, and I'm like, but here I am, I'm teaching something that to me it just opened doorways for me. It just made me feel like something. So, and I haven't dealt with what those doorways opened. So I was feeling like at the end of those classes, a lot of time I was like, am I making this worse for these guys? Am I opening these doorways for them too by teaching them this
Mm.
and not teaching them how to deal with those emotions now that they're recognizing and feeling in themselves? And so I was just like, man, that was really killing me. It was really, really just killing me inside. And I'm still working at Rapid and still getting it. And then all of a sudden, Anna Debenham, the CEO of Inside Alliance, she came to me and she was like, I got a job opportunity for you. I mean, she's been trying to already poach me and get me to come work for her. I just wasn't ready to go do it. I make really good money. I'm killing it over here. Like to me at that point in time in my life, it was about making money so that I can do the things in life I wanted to do. I wasn't really more set into like, oh, this is my career. This is the path I really want to go. I knew I wanted to work around the youth. I knew I wanted to help people. I just wasn't sure the exact path that I was on was the right path at the time.
Yeah.
So when she came and offered me this job, she was like, but this is something different. This is not going to be what we're teaching over here. This is this stuff called restorative justice. Like restorative justice. I said, I think I took a writing class on that one time. Okay, I think I could get into this. I mean, not really fully knowing what I was fully getting into at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells me about it, and then all of a sudden she's like, I need you to go talk to this group. The group I'm talking to is legislators. I didn't know that's what you wanted me to go talk to. You want me to go talk to hold up. This is for real now. This is like getting serious, like down my career path.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, damn, I'm speaking to legislators now. Like, this is nuts, bro. This is shit. I'm doing something like it's so things in me are sparking now.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm learning about this restorative justice. So I go to this training. I go back to school now. I feel like going to school is like my life. I'm a life student.
Yeah.
I do so much training behind this work that I do. So I go and take this week-long training class. That's only phase one. What I didn't know is I'll be training almost every day for the next 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
3 months of training, intensive, like 8-hour days I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So behind this work and this restorative justice work is what changed everything for me. Everything for me. It set everything that I was confused about, everything that I was just like curious about, every direction that I was like, fuck, this all makes sense now. Everything in my life that I've been like working towards, this better me, this new me, is now all making sense.
Mm.
Because now it's teaching me things about those emotions and feelings that I had. And now I'm learning how to deal with them. And now I'm like, uh, yeah, I need therapy. So do you guys accept the new patients? Because I got some shit I got to deal with, a whole lot of shit. I'm like, I'm doing this new work and I have to be able to focus 100%. So, in order for me to do that, I have to break myself down once again. I have to go through all these stories, relive them. I got to learn lessons from those stories that I just unraveled with this therapist, who, by the way, I agree with you. I don't like my therapist. Actually, I actually hated the man half the damn time when I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to him. Like,
Yeah.
I'm tired of you pointing this shit out and making me realize this shit about myself. You, you're
Yeah.
kind of a dick for this stuff, though. But thank you at the same time, because it's helped me mold into who I am.
Yeah.
You got
And
to understand, I got locked up at 19. 15 years of my life was gone. That's 15 years of my life that was not caught up to whatever society is doing. We're left in the dust in there. They don't give you nothing technology, no TikToks, no nothing. There's nothing in there like that. Like, I didn't know nothing. Learned how to use the phone on my own. I still don't know how to use these damn Apple phones, man. There's so many features on this shit. Technology is nuts out here nowadays.
yeah. Um.
Computers are crazy. The one thing that got me the most out here was language.
Mm,
Language is the one thing that's killed me the most out here when I got out. I went in there where the terms like punk, bitch, hoe, those words don't get used.
mm-hmm.
First day out, I'm at this barbecue my family threw for me, and all my sisters are there, cousins are there. Bitch, bitch, bitch. Oh, that's my bitch. I'm so offended and getting mad, I leave my own welcome home party. What the fuck y'all talking like this for? Nah, I learned, and excuse my terminology, but this is the only comparison that I could feel. The term bitch morphed out here. It is what black people like the terminology nigga. This is the only comparison I can compare it to. How we say it as a term of endearment, females now use the term bitch as a term of endearment.
Mm-hmm.
That's my bitch. Well, that blew my mind. Simple languages. Then I had to catch up with all the pronouns that go on out here in the world. I had to learn about how other people see themselves and how they want the world to see them. So I am a him, I am a they or a them. I am this two-spirited person. I had to learn about all this stuff. And that
So
was the biggest stuff for me that blew my mind, because to me, being a person who learned biblical stuff, picking up the Bible, learning from books is not like the same as learning life in real life. Books can only teach you so much from what real life can teach you. I
well,
didn't get a book in there to teach me about how people feel about themselves internally. You might have been born a man, but internally you've never felt like that person. So I started comparing that same feelings to the way I felt about myself growing up as a child. I am of mixed race. I speak too white for black people, but I speak too black for white people. I don't look native, so my native family ain't gonna accept me fully. I was known as a res nigga to them. That's how my cousins referred to me, as the res nigga. Not
that's
knowing that
actually
internally, that really kind of fucks me up to have that, like
yeah.
to feel that way. But to be somebody who's not accepted by your own family, like feel totally accepted by all of them, was confusing. It still kind of confuses me, as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
but I am me. I am a black, white, indigenous person,
You,
and that's who I am.
you know
I'm going
something.
to identify as a black, white, indigenous person.
The common thread that people who are hurt and going through it, they resonate with the struggle. And so if you're not of the same struggle, it's really less about you. It's more that you're outside of this level of familiarity on a day-to-day level. So you're a them. You're not with us. You're with them.
Well,
Um
for me to learn the term they them,
well, this is
and
different from
I've read
pronouns.
about that. Like, to me, like reading in books, like they them was a discriminatory term towards black folks.
Well, to me it's like this
So
is
then
just
when I heard my friend explain it, like, because he identifies, that's one of his, identifications is he, him, they, them. I was like confused, and we talked about it. We had a serious discussion about this, like heated to the point of like we were both a little heated about it, trying to just. But it took a while for me to really discover that, and for me to learn to accept that was me accepting myself. At that
that's
point in time, I'm still going through therapy. The biggest change for me that I made, and tell you, the one thing that I give to my therapist is the one thing I will give my hats off to him for is he made me look into a mirror. He said, "Look in that mirror. Tell yourself that you love yourself, man, and tell yourself you believe in yourself." When I looked in that mirror, I could not tell myself I loved myself.
mhm.
And then he said, "Now, why can't you say that? Say it. Just say it." And I said it with tears in my eyes, sniveling like a baby. I love me, and not really fully feeling it yet. He said, now let's make you love yourself. Now
Mhm.
let's learn how to love yourself. Let's learn why you don't love yourself. And I learned to love who I am as a person. I've learned to accept who I am as a person. I've learned to love and accept everybody around me. Through my
Mhm.
restorative work, I've learned the acceptance of everybody around me.
Mhm.
I've learned that I can't come and judge you because I don't know what your day has been like. You could come in here an asshole, but not mad at me. You're still gonna take it out on me. For whatever happened to you prior to coming to me, something happened. But
So
I'm gonna accept you as a human being, and I see that you hurting from something else and that you taking it out on me. So at this point in time, I learned about boundaries. Greatest tool that a human being could have is learn boundaries in life.
mhm.
So man, I'm gonna distance myself from this conversation, give you some space, let you learn to come and talk to me. Or maybe I'll come talk to you a little bit later when you feel cool and calm. Like we can sit down and really talk.
So I wanna stop and just touch on a couple things. First, that was beautifully well said. Second, um, when I said they, I'm talking or them. I'm not talking pronouns. I'm talking
Right.
tribalistic thinking,
Right.
right? That
Right.
you are not of us, the collective over here, doing what we do over here, going through this struggle over here, right? And that is actually propagandal thinking. And that's what they would do in war to dehumanize people over there so I can do whatever the system wants, because it's not natural for me to do that to someone I see equal to me on a human level. Right. So I
Right.
just kind of want to acknowledge that. Um, you said that you were working initially, was it you said OIA, that was Oregon Youth Authority?
Yeah. McLaren.
Okay, so you're out at McLaren initially, and you're going through all these things, these 3 month intensives, right? I want you to just briefly touch on these 3 month intensives, and then we're going to go into restorative roots and what the day to day is, some of the things that you're working with there. Sound good?
So yeah, these the intensives, man, that it put me on another level of who I am. It's really helped mold the man I am today. Going through these intensives, and It was unlike any learning that I've ever experienced because at the end of the day, I would be so emotionally exhausted. Usually, you learn something and you go to school, you're mentally exhausted at the end of that day. You might have some frustration from the day or something, but mostly school, it makes you, mentally exhausted. This training emotionally exhausted me. It's so what we like to say in the restorative justice world is restorative justice work is a mirror. Every case that I work on, every job that I take on, I literally work on myself when I do my work. I'm not only helping these folks, I help myself a lot of the time because when you dealing with people and their problems and their emotions and they're unraveling, their traumas, that always brings stuff up for yourself. Anybody unraveling traumas is always gonna pick that little thing in the back of your brain, like, oh shit, I kind of went through something similar to that. So I go through the same work with them. Every time I give one of my clients some activity, paperwork to do, I do it right along with them. I'm answering questions the same as them. You know, we go to share it. I'm gonna share mine too with you. The
You know,
restored that I mean, it just working and showing your vulnerability, your human side to another human being as they are doing it is something magical.
mm,
I mean, this work is beyond magical, bro. The stuff that I've seen, I've witnessed, I mean, I'll get into this, man, but it's just blown my mind. Like the
yeah.
transformations in human beings, the vulnerability that comes out of a human being, and then the end result. It's amazing. It's
So,
amazing.
um, one thing I also want to touch on is that, well, two things. First of all, I think it's worth noting the time aspect of self discovery. Okay, because your story, 15 years in the system isn't even enough, right? For you to begin, and it wasn't until things started to come together that you're like, oh shit, I guess that's why I experienced that, and that set me up for this, right? So I just want to say, first of all, greatness takes time. And shout out to TD Jakes because one of the things that he said is, I've never met a great person in my life that wasn't a huge contradiction. And he was like, myself included. How do I, preach on Sunday and then, I'm going home and I'm dealing with struggles like, my daughter's pregnant at a young age. She's like 14 and she's pregnant, but you're the preacher or something. Things like that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that because for anyone that's gone through trauma and life doesn't stop, things will still continue to happen, but as you're going through this process trying to heal, it's like that whole looking in a mirror thing. You're going to feel greatly like the greatest contradiction in the world, but you should still keep doing the work. It doesn't mean that you failed. And when you're going through like therapy and feeling like you hate the very person that's helping you, right? Because they're your mirror, right? You're really mad at yourself. And you said the word heated. And we use that word often, but really it's passionate. I'm so passionate about this shit that I can't turn it off. I care so deeply about it that yes, I'm gonna be at either fucking extreme. I'm shut down or I'm all the way up here because I don't know how to be balanced. My life is all the way out of balance. That's why I'm fucked up to begin with, because I can't figure it out. Either I'm crazy as hell or I'm way abnormally cold. Like I'm just a weird dude in the room, like wallflower, just mean mugging everybody, and you're like, what the fuck? We had a kid's, birthday party or something. But that's the real shit on a day-to-day level of this. And now I want to get into more of like some of the things that you're doing and the other side of it. Cause people are gonna go, all right, So restorative justice, I want you to explain how it works, and in the face of other people going, well, how is that going to solve, the revolving door that we have of crime right now in this city? Because everyone knows, especially if you've lived in Portland, bananas as it's ever been right now.
Yeah.
And so explain, how you're seeing these transformation and what it's doing for people. Because man, I remember, like, anyone that knows someone that's been locked up, they get out and that motherfucker's focused. They do not want to do any of the shit that had them back in here. They don't want to be that person anymore, but they can't just leave everything behind, and they're back in the same environment where it's like what's natural to me is this old way of being. And my friends, they didn't get locked up, you know? So now I'm back with what's familiar to me, and I don't want to. It took me a long time to learn this. It was like my loyalty would take me places, my own good judgment wouldn't have me. And then just by doing the right thing, which for most people, like, especially what we're taught is like, you got to be down, you know, you got to stay down, right? Well, that's what keeps you down when motherfuckers don't have good sense around you, so
Yeah.
you wind up in this position where someone does something, and now I wouldn't have done anything, but now I feel I got to. And those old habits really come out, and that cycle can continue. So I want to know how this is going to stop that, and is stopping that.
I will be 100% honest with you. I don't think there's anything out there that will ever fully stop that.
Hmm. That's the
But
most
our goal
honest.
and mission is to reduce recidivism rate and try to abolish it altogether if possible. I mean, the prison system is a slave system, embedded slavery. It's modern day slavery. That's all it is. You know, it's truly not designed for anything good and healthy.
Hmm.
Um, the system destroys more than just the individual that goes into there. It trickles down and affects these family members. The ones who get up on the weekends to come and see that person, that's a time out of their life that they got to take to come do that. Come see you. Travel so many hours. Go through their embarrassments of going through metal detectors, getting patted down themselves just to go visit their loved one. It affects the hell out of somebody in their family. So
Now, I like to
I
ask
will
this.
say, like, so I get into this restorative world and this, being an abolitionist now, fighting the system, fighting things of oppression now, learning about the stuff that's been keeping people down forever and the systems that have been destroying us out here and families and stuff. So I get into this restorative world. Now, like I said earlier, I was introduced to restorative justice through this class I took while I was at OSP. It's called restorative letter writing, where you learn to write a letter to your victim. Now, I'm gonna take that word out because you'll hear me say something different. Like we don't like to use the term victim because victim is actually like a dehumanizing term if you actually think about it. Think like you're a victim. That sounds like something really bad. So we like to say harm party. Sounds a lot better. Not as, it doesn't affect a human being to say that, because we've ran across plenty of people that be like, man, I ain't no damn victim. Don't call me a victim. Okay. Learn about that, like languages. That was a big thing that I learned about, in restorative justice is language. How much the way you talk to an individual can affect them.
Hmm.
Those certain words that you use can affect an individual. And I didn't know a lot of that kind of stuff. I didn't know, like, I'm getting out, saying things that were normal to me, my normal. 1999, 2000 normal, and here I am, got out in 2017, is when I got out of prison. So I'm like, huge gap of what changed in that time frame,
Hmm.
so I wasn't caught up. My language wasn't caught up to everything. There's different terms out here and ways to speak to a human being without offending them when you talk to them.
Mhm.
I learned a lot of that through my restorative work. So when people hear restorative justice, automatically, like, a people think it's like, oh, that's that old hippie shit that everybody gets around, hold hands, and kumbayas with each other, and
Mhm.
everything's supposed to be cool in life. Yeah, no, it's a whole lot deeper than that. It was a whole lot deeper. It was more than just this letter writing class that I took. Restorative justice is very deep. It's broad. It's our history. Restorative justice work. Actually, we derive it from uh I'm gonna get don't let me, I'm trying to get it right. It's a Australian tribal, but some tribe in Australia
Like
where we
Aborigine stuff?
derive, bro, tribal, ancestor tribal times. Like, this is where it comes from.
Mhm.
Restorative justice work was when we grew, when your family, your ancestors lived in that village and wherever they came from, and they grabbed the whole entire village to come together because Jethro came and stole Jared's chicken. The whole village would come together and figure out how to deal with this.
So, is that an example of a community circle?
Yes. So community circles, well, it would be and it wouldn't be. So let's say right now, I'll just pick a topic of something and I'll just pick a random neighborhood. Say we're in the Lentz neighborhood.
Mhm.
So say I'm going to, and this is something that I do. I go to city hall meetings, town hall meetings, because I want to know what's going on out here in the city. I want to know what problems that you guys are having.
Mhm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite everybody in this community to sit in this restorative circle now that we're going to do.
Mhm.
Everybody's going to share what's going on out here. How you feel about that? How you feel about that? Everybody's going to get their turn to get to talk. Because you go to a town hall meeting sometimes, not everybody going to talk. Not everybody's voice is going to get heard. In this circle, you're all going to get your voice heard. And we're all going to come up with a solution at the end to try to fix whatever problem that we feel is going on right now. As a whole, as a community, we're going to unravel this problem, how it affects you. What do you need right now? What's going to make that right for you? You
Okay.
know, 'cause- I mean, so that would be like a basic community circle. We'll just pull some community members in. It might
Mhm.
not be a problem that's going on. It might not be anything wrong, but we're going to pull the community together. We're going to try to fix some stuff. We're going to have everybody heard about what you're being affected by in this community, what you feel you need to have done that makes you feel right, that makes you feel safe in this community.
Mhm. And
Gun violence is a big thing that's going on in the city. So a lot of the community circles that are being held are revolve around gun violence right now and how it's affecting these members of this community. Um, the ways that they don't feel safe anymore, what they need to feel safe, or how they can feel safer.
mhm.
Whether that is, I get off at work at 10 o'clock at night and I have to walk home. I don't drive, or nothing. I might feel safer if somebody was able to just walk home with me at night. Okay, well, I'm going to go around the circle. Hey, man, is anybody willing to come help, Susan just walk home at night so that she feels a little bit safer? Yeah, okay. Brad might feel like he's got that time in him.
Mhm.
So restorative justice is all about community. You bring that community together because that's something that we're all missing is community.
And
Communities aren't what they used to be. It's not what I grew up in. I don't even have a community no more. I can't even go to Northeast Portland and say, oh, yep, this is where all the black people live on this block. No, it's not like that no more. Black people live all over Portland now. We don't even got a neighborhood in this city no more. It's sad, but that's what gentrification does out here, and redlining.
mhm.
But,
Um
you know,
so what is equity informed mediation? I just want to go through your guys' service list a little bit so people can know, because I want people to support what you're doing because I feel that it's beautiful, you know.
So
And I think that you gave the most honest response in that there's not necessarily anything that's just gonna be this miracle cure for it, right? People are still gonna, people are still gonna be people. There's still gonna be fuck ups and mistakes that happen from people just living their lives. And, being reintroduced into society is not an easy thing. And it's also not easy being a, a harmed party or someone of a victimized mind state because of what they've gone through. So, what is equity informed mediation, and how does that kind of play into resolving issues on both sides?
so there's regular mediations that go on out here,
Hmm.
and there's different forms of mediation. Um, there's like small claims court mediations, which is something that we plan on getting into in the future.
Hmm.
I got to go through training once again to get certified through the courts as a certified court mediator because they got their own set of stuff that you have to go through. So, yeah, there's divorce mediations that go on.
Hmm.
A big one out here is like landlord dispute mediations. Like, say you're getting an eviction notice or something, and it's
Hmm.
some sort of problem. Like, we'll go mediate that issue between the landlord and the tenant, try to fix whatever happened. See if there's another way around it. Uh, so mediations are just basically working with two or more parties to come to some sort of term or an agreement, to fix whatever conflict is going through them. Excuse me. Equity informed mediation is me taking it a step further. So that's me saying that I am knowledgeable in all things equity informed. So I come in with a lot of partial biases. Um, we don't take sides on anything. I'm more knowledgeable on things of to do with race, pronoun, ethnicities. I dabble a lot. It just goes a little bit further of dealing with more BIPOC folks. And then I come from a lived experience lens. My lived experiences are being in prison, being a person of color, uh, you know, poor, the gang life, a drug addict. Like I come from the same lenses of those, and I am informed on things that need to be a little bit more sensitive into a situation. If you got
So,
a white person, let's just say a white mediator's coming to mediate a black relationship, well, first off, you don't know what it's like to be black. So you're coming in not knowing anything about these people, and it's really going to probably, you're not going to understand where they're fully coming from, unless you're somebody like you're an equity informed mediator. And there are equity informed mediators that are white. So I'm not limiting it, saying that it's only for people of color, because we do have white equity informed
no, you're
mediators
saying
out
you're
here.
saying people talk different, and I get it.
They
Like
do,
there's
and
different
but we also
communication.
come from different lifestyles and different backgrounds and stuff like that. A white household is not the same as a black household. The black household is not the same as the Asian or a Hispanic household. You know, we're all come from different backgrounds, and how we look and see things in life are totally different.
Hmm.
So being equity informed just means that I just understand, and I come from a lens where I can explain and understand those things a lot better.
Yeah, so you're dealing with the heated or passionate, you know, parts of
The more intense stuff, yeah.
yeah.
The more
And then
intense mediations.
so I guess the two last things that I would like to cover is the SAP program, and then where you guys are taking this. and where we can find you, so that way people can really help support in what you guys need.
So the SAP program is our main program. It's our bread and butter. It's what we started off doing. We originally were part of the Inside Alliance. We were a department inside of there. Due to mutual agreements, of seeing how where this work that we do, where it can go, was in an opposite direction from the Inside Alliance of where they were trying to head. So we mutually agreed. They were like, we'll allow you to split off. We'll give you guys the funds and the means, and we'll let you guys go do your own thing then. I'm like, okay, it's cool. It's going to work out, right? So the SAP program is our alternative to incarceration. And it's our bread and butter. So what really happens in the normal judicial system is a person gets arrested, they go to jail, they get indicted at an arraignment, and then they go off to prison. Serve your time, get out, parole system, whatever happens. Usually recidivism happens, somebody, reoffends, going through a traditional system. It's just not it's just not healthy. It doesn't necessarily work always. And it's not what everybody needs. In a traditional system, the harm party gets no say in nothing. If you were hurt, somebody shot at you, the only thing that's going to happen majority of the time, you're going to go to court, you're going to testify, and they're going to send you about your way. That's what happens to most harm parties out here, in the regular judicial system. They get no say, they get no help, they don't get to deal with the trauma. Nobody offers them the help. There is an outreach like resource in the DA's office, but they rarely ever reach out to anybody. They got so many stuff that they have to do. The harm party gets left nowhere. Nobody cares about that. So restorative justice is going to go from you commit your crime, get arrested, no indictment. DA reviews this case, sends it straight to my office. My office gets it, looks at the criteria, see it fits. We say, yeah, we're going to take this case. The DA will reach out to the harm party and ask the harm party. Now, this program is survivor centered. It's all based off of the harm party in this case. It doesn't go forward until the harm party says, I do want restorative justice.
Mm-hmm.
So once that harm party says, yeah, I want it, we go and ask the responsible party, hey, there's this program that you can get involved in. If you go through it, in the very end, your case will be dismissed. It's like it'll never happen. It won't even be on your record.
Mm-hmm.
So we got these cases. I got two parties now. I got a responsible party that I work with and a harm party I work with. On the responsible side, we work with these people about taking accountability. We work with them on stuff of finding and discovering who their support circles really are out here. And if they don't got one, helping them build a support circle. But the number one thing that we do is we do a needs assessment. We understand that no individual could go through life trying to do something important when your basic needs of life aren't even met. If you over here worried about having to get food, shelter, clothing, getting to work, you're not going to worry about fixing your life. You don't have the time, obviously, to fix your life. If you have to worry about making sure you got food on your table. So our first thing is a needs assessment. We want to make sure that all your needs are met, that you're okay in life. that your rent is paid, that you got food on your table, that you got clothes on your back, that you're able to go get a job, that if it's school that you need to go to, that you can go to school. You know, we help people, we help this party get their life back on track and establish themselves in society in a correct way. We teach these people to learn who they are and learn about the mistakes that they made. And then we deal with this person over here, the harm party. They got a whole trauma thing that they're dealing with. So we deal with them in trauma and we go through their needs assessment. I'm not a therapist, but I will definitely send you to a therapist who can help you out with things that a therapist can help you with. But we help folks get through their trauma, to learn to deal with that. We help them, you know, with whatever it is that they need to feel secure and safe.
Do they ever come face to face again?
That's the ultimate goal of this, is to get both of these folks face to face on what we call a restorative community conference. We take this harm party and whoever they deem as a support person for them, if they want a support person in this process. So if you choose to have a support person, they could walk through this whole process with you, holding your hand, or if they don't want to, that's your choice. So we're going to get you and that support person. We're going to have this responsible person and their support person if they choose to have one. We're going to have a community members, maybe a couple community members who might have been, maybe they were actually witnesses of the crime. And we got it on the police report that you were a witness of the crime. And we ask if you want to be a part of this restorative conference. So we get these people, we're all together. We got community members, we got responsible party, we got harm party. This harm party is going to tell you his story. He's going to tell you why he committed that crime, what went through his head. Maybe he was addicted to drugs at that time and he was trying to support that habit. Maybe he was actually just trying to feed his family. Whatever his story is, he's going to tell you that. Go from that point on to everybody in that circle talking about how they were affected by that incident.
I think you mixed it up. Harm party's the person that was affected by the incident.
Right.
So I just want to
even the
clarify
community
that.
gets affected by the incident as well.
Yeah,
So
but
if you're a community member and you witnessed another person get shot, that might be pretty traumatizing to you.
oh yeah, I'm just saying it's a different thing from the person being shooting a gun versus the
Right.
person being shot at. So I just want to clarify that for whoever might be listening.
Right. But I mean, like their responsible party, how they might have been affected. The harm party is going to tell you how they were affected and what
Hmm.
happened to them, you know, their support person, and so on. So everybody gets their chance to tell you how they were affected. Everybody's going to get a chance, you know, to question this responsible party now. The responsible person. Now you're going to get questioned about why and this and you could have did this better and what was going on. And you know, it's going to be questions. It gets heated. It gets very emotional. You'd be surprised how many of these responsible parties break down before a harm party will break down. For a person to admit, come to you face to face and say, sorry, this is my wrong. This is what I did. How can I make this right by you? What can I do to show you that I am sorry? And he's going to ask for that. And every member is going to tell you how you can do that. So we create this plan for this person. And this is the part that's like shocked me the most, is like the plans that come out of this, like how some harm parties are affected differently than others and the needs that they have from this. So we've had one guy, he was like, I just want you to do better in life. I don't care what it is you do out here, just do better. Well, how can I let you know he's doing better? Can I do a check-in with you and tell you every once a month that what he's up to? Yeah, I like that. I'd like a check-in about what he's doing every month, once a month. That's fine if that's okay with him. Yeah, I can check in with you. I can do that. Somebody was just like, I want you to go to church. I want you to go speak in front of a group of people and let them know what it is that you did and how sorry you are. I would like to see you do better in life. I'd like to see you go to school for something. The things that come out of this they amaze me, you know? Because once a person understands another human being, a person's heart changes. If you see where a person really comes from and what caused them to go down this road, your heart's going to change about a person. You're going to have a different perspective of who they are. Yeah, you might have been hurt by it or something, but your heart is going to change in the end of this. People see each other totally different. I've seen a harm party walk up to the person that assaulted them and hug them at the end of one of these. I've watched we got this girl, I'll call her Jessica. She was houseless for 7 years. Funny story. This one amazed me. I was excited to take this case on. The person she assaulted with a slab of marble worked for rapid response. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's my case. I want this one.
Full
Can I
circle,
take this?
baby.
I was
Full
like,
circle.
I'm gonna know this so well because I know what it's like to be on both sides of this. So she was houseless, addicted to heroin, on oxycodone. I mean, she lost her child because of her addiction. This person now sees her child through their adopted parents. They all have a relationship. She goes to church full time. She's 13 months clean and sober. She works for Rapid Response, but everything came full circle in that. And I was just so amazed by this. I'm like, you assaulted these people. This company could have sued you, could have sent you to jail, but they didn't. They offered you a job at the end of this conference that we had. And not only that, we paid for her to go to school. She's in school right now to be a peer wellness specialist. She wants to help other folks out there in the world. She wants to go and help the houseless community. So that's what she's going to school for. Rapid Response gave her time off so she can go to school and better herself in life. I'm like, bro, this is what restorative justice does. But in the community, they want to see numbers. I can't give you numbers, but I will give you cold, hard stories of people whose lives have turned around, people who have been affected and changed by this work that we have done. Through seeing another human being, through humanity, has changed other folks' lives. That's the work that I do. And that's just the SAP program. We are now getting ready to start doing restorative justice in schools. This summer, we're going to start training with Reynolds High School teachers. And we will begin the next school year doing restorative justice work with the students in there. And that's going to look like, say, two students had a conflict in school, but now their families have problems because now it's taken outside of the school. Well, that's where the schools can't get involved in anything outside of the school wise. So we come in and we're helping the families deal with the issues of the beefs that go on in between these young kids nowadays that lead to the gun violence, and these senseless killings that are going on out here in the city.
Honestly,
So
I think that's beautiful, and I think there's something to be said for unknown statistics, right? Like, because people don't come back and tell you, "Oh, I'm doing so good." Like that's kind of a rarity. Like when someone's really doing good, like their life takes off and they're just going that way and the story goes with them, you know? This is something that would take a long time to like quantify, to see truly like the level of how many cases you have and how the recidivism is reducing on a long term versus a short term. But what I can say is just from your accounts and what you go through on a day to day, I feel that that's truly making headway in the communities, and especially it's beautiful to hear that you're reaching the youth. um Part of Happy Hoodlums is like, it didn't dawn on me until later because it really wasn't intended. Um, it was just a cool name and something that was like a good philosophy. But what I realized is like, oh shit, that's kind of like what I wish I would have told my younger self, you know, is like reaching back and catching someone before they kind of go through these mistakes by having people like yourself come on and share real life stories, and their experience. So, I really want to say thank you for coming on. This is one of our longest episodes to date, and it was all quality, bro. You really spoke from the heart and shared your truth in a way that, like, you're definitely the perfect fit for what you do. And I think that's beautiful. We'll make sure that we get
thank
the
you.
links to everything so that way people can support you. And to all our happy hoodlums, we ask that you do come out,
For
support.
us, March
Yeah.
29th, my organization is hosting our very first fundraiser at the Crystal Ballroom, Lola's Room. Come on down, y'all. We got local artists performing music, poetry. You'll hear from some of our clients. Come on in, support us, y'all.
Yes, let's support. And the last thing that I want to say, one thing that I can't overlook in your whole story, you said something because I know that we met in the dispensary and stuff, and we've touched on things being a band-aid, but sobriety is super important, and valuing your experience without needing to take a vacation from your life. And
Very important.
I I
Very.
just I want to make sure that we acknowledge that. Um, and for everybody else, there's other episodes to come. You know, Brandon, my dog. Thank you for everything that you do.
Much
Um,
love. Much
until
love.
next week, you guys. That's the Happy Hoodlums podcast.